or D-Day. I mean, this is how significant this fight was. But then you listen to the Israeli Defense Force, and some reporting has come out in Haaretz about this. They say, don't believe the numbers about Hamas fires, because we simply drew a circle around Al-Shifa and said anybody who's in it dies. If you're in it, you're considered to be Hamas. So we're going to kill you. It's automatic death. We don't mess around. We kill you and we count you as Hamas. So when Israel starts throwing out body counts, these are heavily inflated accounts. And then Israel also misrepresents, responsibilities. A security officer for the hospital is called a senior Hamas, regional coordinator. I'm not saying that Hamas can't dual hat. I'm not saying that Israel, but I mean, they need to do better. We know that the Israelis just make stuff up. They haven't been honest about any aspect of this operation. And they went into the hospital and committed mass murder and butchery. They executed. Some numbers was 147 guys got executed. I mean, it's a big number. There's just the kind of stuff that in and of itself would normally be headline generating global condemnation, but it's just become so run of the mill. I mean, we're at the point now in the global community where, everybody's on the side of Palestine, but I mean, when these atrocities are thrown in front of you day after day after day, there's just this exhaustion level that comes up. And it's the same thing with these aid workers. These aren't the first aid workers that Israel killed, and they won't be the last aid workers Israel killed. These ones are different because they were nice people, had high profile videos, they're foreigners, they carry the passports that normally don't get you killed. But Danny, I mean, maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe I've just become too cynical. But I'm sort of guessing that this time next week, we're not going to be talking about these aid workers, because Israel's going to have done something else. They're going to go into Rafah. The second they go into Rafah, no one's going to be talking about aid workers. Nobody's going to be talking about Shifa Hospital. No one's going to be talking about anything but Rafah. And in Rafah, we're going to be talking about the same thing, which is damage control by the United States. The whole world saying, we're so mad, but they're not going to do anything. Genocide has been declared by the International Court of Justice. Israel's been put on notice to stop. A resolution was passed at the Security Council of the United Nations telling Israel, cease fire. But there's no consequences for Israel's continued, thumbing their nose at this. This is the real story. Israel has absolute immunity because the world will do nothing, because America won't allow the world to do anything. They killed these aid workers, 7 of them. But the real loss, I mean, these are 7 people, but look, let's get racist here for a second. These are 7 white people, and they make headlines, baby. But man, we got 30,000+ dead brown people. We don't care. I mean, it's just numbers. We're just, oh my God. Now we're waiting for the number to go to 35,000. Oh my God, 35,000 dead brown people. Oh my God, could it go up to 40,000? 7 white people. This is an outrage. I mean, and this is, be honest, that's what's happening here. These are white people. They carry European passports, Canadian passports, and so there's outrage, but they'll be forgotten next week if Israel goes into Rafah, because there's only so much outrage a person can have. I've been outraged from the beginning, and I have to be honest. I mean, look at my eyes, guys. I'm tired. I'm exhausted from this, reading this stuff every day, trying to come up with, the mental, machinations of how do you wrap your head around the scope and scale of what the hell Israel's doing here? How do you, as an American, how do you wrap your head around the absolute failure of your government to stand up for anything? I mean, my God, there's an attack at the Crocus City Hall, terrorism. We're not talking about that anymore either. There's an attack in Moscow, and the United States comes out within minutes and says, we know who did it, ISIS. We know who didn't do it, Ukraine. Russia, there's no need for you to do this investigation. We know the answer. But no, Israel doesn't attack this one vehicle, but they attack the initial vehicle. Second vehicle comes up, takes bodies out, takes survivors out, tries to drive away. Bam, Israel hits that too. The third vehicle comes up, takes the survivors, puts it in. bam, Israel hits that too. Not one, but two, but three vehicles targeted by the Israelis after they declared the route they were going on. After they said these are the vehicles that were marked and were in the timetable, Israel took them out, assassinated them. In the United States, what's the response? We're waiting for the Israeli investigation to make a final determination about what happened. And if whatever, we will respect whatever the Israelis say happened. And, it's war, and war's hell, and sometimes bad things happen. But we're going to wait for the Israeli investigation. So we're going to wait for the Israeli investigation when it's obvious what happened. But we're not going to support any Russian investigation because we throw out a cover story that falls apart immediately. The hypocrisy of America is unreal. Even today, when you're supposed to be saying, in the United Nations, condemning Israel's violation of international protocol, instead we're telling the Iranians, don't you dare retaliate. Don't you dare retaliate. I mean, God, I just think that the world has become exhausted by the Palestinian issue. And the sad thing is, I think that means that we're really not going to do anything collectively to stop what's happening. And this is going to become more of a big picture strategic thing. I do think that Israel's made a fatal error here. That when the final book is written on what Israel did, I'm going to move in just a little closer. I think my camera, all my moving around, getting emotional. And,
you got a little. There you go.
So there, I got to reset my camera there because even I was getting blurry eyed. But I was like, wait a minute,
the camera was getting exhausted.
Yeah, I moved it around too fast. I got to slow down. But but my point is, I think we're at a stage right now where we can't rely on outrage anymore because it's every day is just more outrage. We have to take a long-term approach to this, which is Israel has discredited itself as a nation, and we need to continue to isolate Israel on the international stage, put pressure, and it's working. Look, Benjamin Netanyahu gave a very impassioned speech the other day where he acknowledged we're standing alone. I mean, there's almost panic in his voice. He recognizes, the consequences of what's happened. And he's also has to start to come to grips with the fact that, Israel is becoming an issue for American presidential politics. That's something that Israel doesn't normally have to worry about. Israel normally has both parties locked up. I mean, all you have to do is go to the annual AIPAC meeting that takes place, in the spring and time period, and you see, it's Republicans and Democrats just pushing each other aside to see who can get up on the stage and be most ass-kissing for Israel. And so Israel has never had this problem where, what they're doing now is impacting the presidential campaign, because if Joe Biden continues to stand by and do nothing while Israel commits atrocity after atrocity after atrocity, he's probably going to lose the election, because there are critical swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, where you have populations that are saying, we're done. We're not doing this. We can't support him because of what happened here. Now, he loses those people, given the razor-thin margins that he won those states by in 2020. He's going to lose those swing states, and then Donald Trump is the president of the United States, and so Joe Biden knows this, and so we have a situation where the United States will probably begin to put more and more pressure on Israel in the long term, and so we're just in this very strange new reality where Israel is being condemned globally, uniformly. The United States is starting to drop support. So now we come back to me putting on my Iranian hat, and I'm advising Khomeini. And you've got all the hotheads saying, got to bomb, got to retaliate. And I'd say, sir, eventually we do. We have to establish deterrence. We have to make sure that Israel understands that if they attack us at this nature, that there will be a retaliation. But maybe not. Maybe now is not the time to do it, because strategically speaking, Israel just further isolated itself. Now, if we don't retaliate, the debate in the United Nations will be clean. It'll be solely about Israel's violation of diplomatic norms and standards international law. And this will further isolate Israel in the eyes of the world. And that's our strategic objective. We're going to rebuild. We're going to continue to put the pressure on. The Israeli economy is collapsing. Hamas has told us not to panic, that they got this under control. So I don't think we need to go around shaking this up too much right now. This is actually unfolding to our strategic advantage. Yes, we took a big hit today. We lost 4 extraordinarily influential and important people, but we can replace them. What we might not be able to do is rebuild a global coalition that we've assembled if we allow ourselves to get involved in a cycle of escalation that leads to a general war between Iran and Israel, because at that point in time, no one will ever talk about Hamas in Palestine again. And this is what Israel wants. Benjamin Netanyahu right now is desperate. You heard it in his voice as he gave that speech. This is a desperate man. And he's desperate politically because he's under attack, but he's also desperate personally because once he stops being prime minister, he's going to be arrested and put on trial for corruption. And he's going to lose that trial. And not only that, he's going to be held accountable by a nation that blames him for everything that's happened here. So he needs to pull a miracle out of the hat, so to speak. And he can only do that by being the savior of Israel, not just about defeating Hamas, but solving the Hezbollah issue, solving the Iran issue. And this is the direction he's trying to take Israel right now and do a general war with Hezbollah and Iran under the assumption, and it's not a wrong assumption, that if he can get Iran to attack Israel, the United States will have to join him. And then it's over. And then it's over for Palestine. It's over for Hamas. It might even be over for Hezbollah in terms of the world. It'll become this big global confrontation that's going to be about, global energy security. It's going to be about the flow of oil. Whole different conversation. And you'll see dead people pile up in numbers that will make the horrible sacrifice of the Palestinians pale in significance. So, that's what the Israeli strategy is right now, is to basically have this thing explode in a way that doesn't look like Israel is to blame. They can blame it on Iran, and the United States will be compelled to support. The U.S. doesn't want to. We've been saying we don't want to, we don't want to, we don't want to. But there's no way a president, especially in an election year, can allow Iran to attack Israel and get involved in an existential level conflict and sit back and go, it's Israel's fault. Can't do it. So they're going to have to get involved. It's going to have to be decisive because so it's going to be a general war between the United States and Iran. And if I'm advising the Iranian president, I'm going to say, we don't want that. Right now, we're winning. We're winning this argument. We're winning this debate. We don't want this to turn into something else. And so I think that's the direction that they're heading. I just think Israel is really in a lot of trouble. And as long as the world can prevent this conflict from expanding precipitously, we're probably looking at, in the long term, the end of Israel as we know it. We're looking at the demise of political Zionism. If Benjamin Netanyahu is compelled to resign, he's under a lot of pressure, tens of thousands in the street demanding his resignation. Chuck Schumer said Israel will be better off without him. If Netanyahu resigns, something big just happened in Israeli courts too. The Israeli court just came out and ruled against the yeshivas continuing Talmudic studies that provide some sort of a safe haven for Orthodox Jews so they don't have to go into the IDF. And the court said, nope, they got to all join. If that happens and Netanyahu doesn't stop it, the far right-wing parties that have rallied around Netanyahu are going to drop out of that coalition, and then it's done. He's out of power. So Netanyahu is under a lot of pressure, and if that looks like that's going to happen, I think you're going to see him striking more and more targets, picking a fight with Hezbollah, picking a fight with Iran, because he knows that if he just focuses on domestic politics, his government's going to collapse. So he has to distract all of Israel and say, I'm a wartime president. We have big fights. I've been warning you for decades about the Iranian threat. I've been warning you about Hezbollah. We have to strike. And, that's very dangerous situation right now. Very, very dangerous situation. So if I were advising the Iranians, I would be saying, don't do anything right now. Talk, say things, don't do anything, because let Netanyahu collapse, let him go away, and then you're going to then the problem starts solving itself, because now Israel is going to become caught up in this domestic crisis. Remember how many times it took, how many elections they had before they finally got a stable governing coalition, this fanatic neo-Nazi Zionist coalition. It's the only one that could have been assembled. Those political divisions in your Israel haven't gone away. There's going to be a whole bunch of recrimination coming out. If Benjamin Netanyahu goes away, and I believe he will, you're going to see Israel. Remember, there was a period of time leading up to this election that the Israeli president said Israel's on the cusp of a civil war. A civil war. All those underlying tensions haven't gone away. So if I'm an Iranian, I'd say we need Netanyahu unplugged, thrown to the side, and then we need to sit back and let Israel consume itself politically. And you combine political dysfunction with economic ruin brought about by this conflict, which Israel's not going to recover from, and you start creating a situation where Israel starts to depopulate. And that's a strategic victory for the axis of resistance. To watch Israel become such a dysfunctional entity that hundreds of thousands of Israelis start to flee and leave Israel, because it's no longer the land of milk and honey. And when the United States starts putting the pressure on Israel that they have to solve, because there will be discussion about a Palestinian state, but you can't really have a discussion until you solve the West Bank settler issue. And so now you get the right-wing parties out of Israeli politics, and now you have Israelis talking about, we need to break the back of these West Bank settlers, these Brooklyn Jews who have flooded in and they've stolen homes, committed horrible crimes. You have to break their back. And when you do that, they flee and others flee. And you suddenly see an Israeli population go from, 9 million down to 6 million, down to 4 million. And then the demographic issue kicks in, and we're not talking about a two-state solution anymore. We're talking about a one-state solution. For an Iranian, that's what you want. That's the direction you want all of this stuff to go into. So let it play out. But unfortunately, that's the fancy way of saying stand by and let more Palestinians die, because that's what's going to happen. They're going to die in large numbers.
Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyHaiFong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.